Good evening. This is a very, very exciting night. And tonight we have two new studio guests. And I'm excited to have Rian and Paul joining me from different parts of South Africa. And I'm excited to have you joining us as well, wherever you might be. If you'd like to share a comment this evening, please do so. And when you do, just leave your name and where you're from. It'll be exciting to hear that. And of course, tonight we're going to be continuing our discussion on beyond resolution. And I think that what's interesting about this concept is that many people make resolutions once a year. At the start of each year, they get asked questions, they make resolutions, and you know something? I discovered in my hometown of East London, South Africa, that most people had forgotten what their resolution was by the 1st of January. They'd made the resolution on midnight of the 31st of December. On the 1st of January, it seemed to have disappeared. But, you know, what I also discovered is that there were people who were determined to follow through on their resolution. And so when I would head off to the office on the 2nd of January, I would find the road was full of people in their new running shoes, their new bicycles. The gym was packed full of people enthusiastically lifting weights. In fact, there were queues of people waiting for the machine. And, you know, this was absolutely incredible. But on the 21st of January, just a few days ago, when I would drive along that same road and I would pass the same gym, it was as if the rapture had taken place. The road was empty, the gym was empty, and people were MIA, missing in action. In fact, I don't think they were missing in action. The people were on AWOL. They were absent without leave. And they began to continue the rest of the year as if they were not living. I want to speak to you this evening. If you find yourself in a place where maybe you've already started taking a detour, maybe you are finding that you are already off track, maybe you're at that place where those resolutions that you took, whenever you took them, seem to have been far away, and that the events of life have gripped you to such an extent that maybe you've lost sight of your vision. Yeah, I am very fortunate, like my panelists this evening, we all have special lenses. And these lenses allow us to see into the future. But, you know, sometimes we need to take them off and clean them and make sure that we get clarity of vision. And I think that is so important. Just earlier this week, I was having a conversation with a few people, and what I was listening to was them exchanging their CV. And of course, as they talked about their CV, and I'm sure you know what I mean when I talk about CV, each one was talking about all of their highlights in their career and their life to this point. And I was sitting there and I was thinking about these two letters, CV. And as I was listening to all of the great credentials that these people had, I realized there is one thing that you and I need that is above all others, and that CV is clear vision, certain vision, committed vision. I mean, convicted vision. This is the CV that you and I need. We need to be getting in there, getting our hands dirty and moving forward, knowing for certain that the vision that has been laid on our heart will be a reality, irrespective of the circumstances that come up across our path, irrespective of the problems that try and distract us, irrespective of the issues of life. No longer are we going to use simple, silly excuses like it's load shedding. Leave that for the power utility. Let them shed their load. Let us find and power our load. Let's get the power in place. It's time for us to move beyond excuses into action. I think that this year is a year that is going to be unprecedented. Yes, we can look back and talk about the events of that our great grandparents experienced, the Great Recession. What a wonderful story that was. We used to sit as young children listening to how difficult life was when you could only have one meal a day, when making rusks became the one piece of food that people could have. South Africans will understand what I mean when I talk about Omar rusks. And we talk about these things, and we remember the Great Depression. I will never forget visiting my in-laws in Zimbabwe, and we would often find chocolates stacked away in the cupboard, covered in cobwebs. And the reason they were there in the cupboard covered in cobwebs was because of the remnants of the Great Depression. You couldn't eat everything now. You had to save it in case things would go wrong. And I think there are people today that have taken on the message to live life. No, not to live life, to exist behind bars, to stay safe. When people talk about stay safe, they are saying live in fear. I want to tell you today, it's time to release yourself from fear. It's time to step in faith. It's time to say goodbye to that message, because the year that faces us is going to be a year beyond all years before. We're going to be prepared for great things, and you need to be prepared. This is the message for me. The great preparation started 3 years ago, and we're going to see the revelation this year. It's in this year that we're going to see things happen for those people who have been preparing in the quiet. And I know that that whoever you are right now, you have a story to tell. You have things that you have been through in your life. There's things that some people have been through that will make other people's problems seem insignificant. I know that there's somebody that's been through a greater struggle than you have, but every single person without failure, the people who go through struggles come out the other side stronger, better equipped, greater resolve, all the things that they need to conquer and to achieve the vision for which they were born. Your life is not over until it's over. Today is a day for living. Today is a day to speak life. And I think we need to begin to speak life to people. Let's get rid of the words that speak death. You know, the power of life and death lie in this tongue. And sadly, many people are not using it to speak the life it was born to speak. Let's speak life at every opportunity that we get. I am not even touching my topic this evening because I'm excited about 2023. You know, the year that lies ahead is just the beginning of the rest of life. And when I say the rest of life, I'm talking beyond your life, beyond my life. We have been born to walk up to the start line. The world wants us to think that we're walking towards a finish line. When your life ends, that which God sent you to begin starts. So we are walking up to the start line. There are things left undone that need to be started, maybe things that haven't been started yet that need to be started. There are things that you have been putting on hold for a long time. You've had resolutions year after year after year, but you've not followed through. This is the time for us to follow through. This is the time for us to engage. This is the time for us to begin to get serious about the revelation that we have been given, the revelation that we have on our heart, the vision that we have seen. A friend of mine said from Tanzania earlier this year, he said, if you can see the invisible, you can do the impossible. Wow, what a powerful statement that was. I was just, it just motivated me. It did something. It spoke to my spirit. It says it doesn't matter what you look like on the outside, it's what's happening on the inside. Yeah, are you on fire? Do you have passion burning within? Or have you already got into the routine of life? And I think the routine of life is taught to us from before we begin formal schooling. And I say before we begin formal schooling because there are children that are barely out of their nappies that are being taken into an institution by their parents at 8 a.m. or 7 a.m. in the morning, and they are picked up at 5 p.m. every day. They are being trained to live a life locked up and do things according to someone else's plan. I want to say tonight that the time for other people to control your destiny is over, because beyond resolution lies something called revolution. When you begin to engage, when you have the resolve, when you become resolute on the revelation that you have resolved to follow through on, the outcome is revolution. And when I say revolution, I mean complete change. You cannot remain the same once you have seen the future. It has to stir inside of you something that gives you life. Some people, the only form of life that they get is the water they drink and the food they eat. I want to say to you right now, there is more to life than just eating food and breathing oxygen. And that thing that brings more life to you is something that makes you feel alive in a way that nothing else can. Tonight could be. And when I say tonight, forgive me, I know there's people from all around the world. So where you are right now could be any time of the day. So in this moment, you may have a revelation that you are born for a purpose that the world cannot do without. And my golly, when you have that revelation, then you know that your life matters. Your life is important. This is your moment. And I think more people need to realize that. More people need to come to the realization that they're not here just to get up in the morning to go and work for someone else so they can earn an income at the end of the month. But they are here to make a meaningful difference in this world, to make an impact, to meet a need that cannot be met by anyone other than you. Tonight, this moment, this morning, this day, wherever you are, it's time to arise. It's time to wake up. It's time to look into the future with new eyes. It's time to see beyond the visible. It's time to look to rise above the circumstance. It's time to look beyond the problem. It's time to see through the obstacle. This is a time for new things. It's a time for new beginnings. Wow, the calendar can change once every 12 months, but thank God you and I can change in an instant. And this right now could be your instant. I certainly feel in my spirit right now that I'm new. I'm excited about the future. I am better now than I was a moment ago. And I trust that you will begin to feel that same way. I'm looking forward to continuing this discussion with the panel, because I've not given a talk tonight. I'm just on fire about what lies ahead. I can see, I can imagine, I can visualize something coming. I was saying to Rion earlier this evening, I said, Rion, this morning, it suddenly dawned on me that Noah was given the responsibility to build an ark. You can imagine building an ark on dry ground. But you know something? He was obedient. He built the ark on dry ground, and he had a full passenger list. The passenger list was jam-packed. Every passenger was provided for him. Not only that, the mode of transport, or the platform on which he was going to travel, the rain, the water, it came. And maybe you're sitting in a place right now, you've been building and working on this ark, and you think it's sitting on dry ground, and what is the purpose of all the effort that you've put in? Nothing seems to be happening. You're getting frustrated. The world might be challenging you and saying, come on, let's do something. Let's make this go faster. What can we do to push it forward? Let's move this ark, put it on logs or do something. But you know, the miracle, the unexpected miracle could be about to happen. That which you have been committed to for days, weeks, months, years, decades perhaps, that commitment is going to bring you closer to your miracle. And today, this moment, your miracle could have already happened. And the rain clouds have begun to form. The rain is about to fall. Your ship is about to lift off the ground and move somewhere where no one else can move it. I'm excited for this year. I trust that you are too. I'm looking forward to continuing this chat with Rian and Paul. And I think we're going to have lots to talk about. So we'll see you right after this short break. We're in the middle. We're in the center of the screen, and it's just such a pleasure to have both Rian and Paul joining me this evening. Of course, we're all in the same era, and the era that we are in is the living era, the era for people who are alive and on fire and ready to make an impact. And I think that's exciting. And this morning, I don't know if you know this, but every single morning when I wake up, the first thing that I do is brush my hair, because that's the best way to start the day. So, Paul and Rian, I'm going to ask you just quickly if you can briefly introduce yourself to our guests. I'm going to start with Paul and then Rian after that. If you can just quickly introduce yourself, where you're from, and how you got to hear about Map for Life.
Good evening all, I'm Paul Leroux. I'm from Garsfontein in Pretoria, and I don't want to even use the word retired. I've basically changed from a water engineer to a living water engineer over the last 3 years. So I share Glen's excitement for 2023. There's a lot of new things happening here in Pretoria East.
Amen. I'm excited about that. Rian?
Yes, good evening all. My name is Rian Burger. I'm from Leidenburg in Mpumalanga, South Africa. Lowveld, or actually Highveld, Lowveld, wherever you want to pitch it. I bumped into a gentleman called Jaap Nel last year that introduced me to Map for Life. Done the course, done the readiness training now. Very excited to hopefully build a Map for Life brand here in Mpumalanga province and get the people on fire. Very excited about 2023. I had the privilege of doing a sermon on Sunday about 2023, and I believe that God is going to make a huge impact in 2023. That's not a resolution, that's the timing of God. So I believe you need to fasten the safety belts, because we must start standing up and fulfilling our purpose, and then we will really see a tsunami coming of God's grace over the world.
Fantastic. I think that I maybe have been inspired by your message, Rian. Just to tell the audience, maybe they don't know, but of course, if you were listening carefully, you would have realized that Paul and Rian are foreign. Paul is, of course, French speaking, and Rian is all the way from Germany. We have them. Okay, of course, our surnames maybe give us a different perspective, and as a South African audience, the rest of the world will know that we have very diverse heritage here in our country, and maybe we talked this evening. In fact, I can't remember what I spoke about, so I'm gonna ask Paul. I saw you were listening intently this evening. And maybe there was something that just stood out for you, like a moment that you felt, this is it for me. This is what I heard today.
Yeah, thanks, Glenn. The whole concept of a CV, a clear vision, that to me, that resonates with me. And I, despite whatever tribulations may come across our road, it's only the second week now of this calendar year, and I can tell you there's already a lot of obstacles or stones in on the road, but that's not going to worry us, or that's not going to deter us from actually keeping our eye on the vision and on Christ, following him to where he's leading us. So that is what when you spoke about the clear vision, yes, that's and I'm committed. We committed to what we really believe is what is our purpose, God given purpose, where we stay, and to basically make an impact, and not in our own power, but to be the vessel that God wants us to be and be available. So, and having that vision unites us. It unites our team of people here in Pretoria East. So a clear vision is part of also the process to unite the people that is like or of the same heart.
Something, Paul, you were talking about. My father grew up in when I say grew up, his early childhood he was in Botswana, and I had the opportunity to visit Botswana when I was about 14 years of age. And what's interesting is in Botswana they have these funny anthills. You know what an anthill is? In the Eastern Cape where I come from, they are small and round. They kind of sit like this. But in Botswana, they tall and narrow. It's almost like a tree. When you look from a distance, you see this thing sticking out the ground. And what was amazing is when you're in the long grass of summer, you get this long grass, you can't see. So what you do is you climb up on one of the obstacles. Yeah. And the obstacle that is there to stop many people actually becomes a vantage point. It becomes a place where you can begin to see beyond the fog of the world, beyond the fog of the circumstance, and you can see where you're going. And everybody crossing a field of long grass knows the importance of stopping, getting on someone else's shoulders, looking ahead, making sure we're heading in the right direction. And when you talked about this, the CV or clear vision again, I just had that image. Thanks for bringing that. Rian, what is your highlight this evening?
Yeah, Glen, I like every time that the past few weeks you also spoke about this thing that we shouldn't be doing of having New Year's resolutions. And I also said, I realized that, where we change from 22 to 23 is a good time to just stop and think, what is God busy with in my life? in the people around me, in this my town, in my province, in my country, in the world, and decide where to join. So for me, so that part is very important. We're not at the time that we're making New Year's resolutions. We're at a time where we stop for a moment and say, where's God busy with? And I think there's really a time now that we need to start standing up and be counted. And what we are going to focus on a lot this year here in our town is to be significant. And I know, in Map for Life, we talk about significance a lot. And I think if we have a CV, a clear vision, that vision should be significant. And the significance for me, what I realized, and I think what God showed me, is that significant is to serve others rather than to be served, and to be humble and not proud. And at the end of the day, to pay the price and not to receive the price. The one is with a C and the other one is with a Z. And for me, really, it's in the back of our mind when we go forward, when we think about where we are going to and what the clear vision is that God give us, we must always remember, are we going to serve the people around us, or are we going to serve ourselves? And I think we've got enough self-serving people, especially politicians in this world, and we need a few significant people that will make a big impact. And if we can go in with a CV to show how significant I've been, and the CV show how significant I believe I'm going to be if I live in my purpose, then the clear vision will just become clear.
I think we've started something here. We're going to have people writing their CV going forward. When a company asks them to submit their CV, they're going to send in their clear vision. And when that begins to happen, then I know we've had the impact that we were born to bring. And I think Paul, you've highlighted this, and I think we need to actually start making it part of our mission, is to have our vision clearly. There's that wonderful guy with a really ridiculous name, Habakkuk. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but he writes something like this. He says, "Write your vision down on tablets," and in one translation it says, "Write your vision down on tablets of stone." I mean, imagine carving your vision out in stone, and then he says, so that those who see it run with it, or those who see it are motivated and inspired and excited about it. And then he goes on to say that if you do that, if you have this clear vision, if this clear vision excites and inspires you, then it will certainly, there's a guarantee, it will come to pass. Maybe not in your time frame, maybe not as quickly as you would like, because, of course, along with a clear vision, there demands a character that is vital. Well, there's another CV. A character that's vital for the vision that God has laid on your heart. And sometimes what is really needed is the character development so that we can follow through and stay on track towards that vision and not lose hope. Peter Darrell loves to say this. He says, where there's hope in the future, there is power in the present. And I think that clear vision that you're talking about inspires hope in so many people. I see Octavia from South Africa is also excited. She's already hashtagging clear vision. So we're starting a trend this evening. Great to have you on board, Octavia. And also we have Primrose from Zimbabwe. Great to have you joining us this evening, Primrose. And who knows, you might even join us in studio later on. Okay, so we're talking about vision. There was something else that I started talking. I used an interesting word right towards the end, and that word was one of those words that will probably pop up on the CIA's, well, just like that word. on their radar, so maybe I could have used a different word, but the word revolution, I used the word revolution because I had a sense that anybody who is pursuing a purpose for which they were created is doing something that's going to bring about transformation. And transformation, the outcome of transformation is to bring about a revolution, in the sense that things are not going to be the same as they've always been. It's going to be business unusual, not business as usual. So thinking about this word of revolution, maybe I want to understand, what is your perspective on something that is so revolutionary? Paul,
Well, there's two aspects. I like the revolving night or idea,
yes,
and or the change, but it is also like talk. There's a momentum. So the revolution can be like revolutions in a vehicle.
yes,
So,
yes.
so that's another perspective. And so as we gain momentum with change, it's like a snowball. It will accelerate due to gravitation.
This is, I mean, what you're talking about now is like a light bulb moment. I mean, just to have that sense of acting on your resolution, following through on the revelation that you've had, is going to bring this momentum, this forward motion. That's Anton from Alberton says, "Preach it, brother." He's talking to you, Paul. He's saying, "Preach it." He likes what you're saying. So that's exciting, And Vengai all the way from Harare, he's using a typical Harare exclamation, Done deal, wash your hands. This is it. We've done. Thanks, Vengai. Great to have you joining us this evening. Rian, come. Sorry, let's keep it to English, because our neighbors might not understand there in South America. They would like to hear what we say. So let's.
We need to revolutionize them. Now I like the revolution, because I think the thing is, the more we always push against the change, and sometimes you need to wake people up. And if you tell people to change, then they're so used to hearing the change and everybody talking about it. So maybe when you start talking about the revolution, people sit up, because we're not supposed in this kind of setting to talk about revolution, but it's not a revolution of taking up the arms. It's a revolution of inside, just changing out. So, and I like what actually Paul also said about the revolutions in the car. What do you want to do if you pick up speed? You push the revolutions and you get momentum. So we need to push the revolution of change so that people can change. But I always told the people that while I was still working in the mining, I said to them, what? For you to change, you need to change. And it sounds simple, but it's difficult. If I want to make a change in the way I get up in the morning, for instance, it means I normally eat a bit of porridge in the morning. Now tomorrow I must actually go and eat some yogurt. That's a change, and you need to think about it. And it's not going to come from itself, because when I get up, I'm going to walk to the cupboard and I'm going to take out the porridge. Hey, I want to change. I'm going to eat. So you need to do it willingly. And the change is actually very difficult. And I know, when we do Map for Life, we talk about habits and how difficult it is to start a new good habit. But with the revolution, it's going to be difficult. You're going to need to remember it. You're going to need to put it up somewhere behind the door in the bathroom or whatever. You need to change. And it's good to always know where you want to change. Because just to say, we're going to change, you're not going to change. You're going to stay exactly the same. What are you going to change? What are you going to do differently? Like you said earlier, are you going to start speaking life? Because when I get up in the morning, I switch on the TV or I speak to someone, look at the paper, and then I start speaking death. and I need to make a decision. The change is I'm not going to open the paper tomorrow because I don't want the negative input in my life. And then it's going to be difficult, but then I put up something to remind me, stop watching the news or whatever it is you want to do. But you need to know what you want to change, because you're not going to change from itself.
I heard a great thing this morning in one of our MAP cafes, and I'd like to encourage those people who are listening to this session to join our MAP club and become part of a small group where you can actually start focusing on the good things that are happening. Start talking about the exciting, clear vision that we have. And I can assure you that it is far more encouraging. That's why the people on this panel this evening, you will notice that every single one of them has a silver lining. And that's not an age thing. I must tell you, that's not age. That's wisdom in this case. For many people, age comes all on its own. But wisdom is something that is being shared this evening. And you guys are bringing stuff out. What I thought about when you talked about revolution, Paul, and you used the example of the wheel turning, it made me think of when I bought my first bicycle. My first business was in the farming industry. At the age of 13, I planted a field of turnips and I sold the turnips and I made enough money to buy myself a bicycle. And what's interesting is when you're riding a bicycle, you have that resistance, and that resistance is actually a good feeling. But when the chain comes off and there's no resistance, suddenly you begin to stumble. And as you were talking, I realized so often people want to be in the place where there's no resistance. They want to kind of freewheel. And the only way you can freewheel is downhill. I think, having that little bit of resistance is actually, it's a good thing. It also helps you to keep the bicycle stable in some interesting way. But as soon as the resistance goes, you have issues. So I just had that sort of sense when you're talking about this wheel turning. We were talking this morning about what we were talking about this morning. We're talking that the quote that was driving this morning's discussion was, "Whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe, it is forced to achieve." And I think that kind of ties in a bit with what we're talking about this evening, because the whole idea of having a resolution, and as we've talked in previous shows, Rian, you would have heard that, and that is that there's only one resolution to make, and that is to connect with your purpose. Because once you've done that, there's no more. There's no need to have a new resolution every year. There's only one resolution. That is to accept the fact that you were born for a purpose and to begin to engage in it. And Miles Monroe said something really interesting to me. I'll never forget the last time I saw him. It was in October 2013. He was giving a talk here in this city where I am right now. For those of you who don't know, Pretoria, South Africa. And I was sitting in an audience. I was the only person with a light complexion, so I hadn't been it looked like I'd been underground for a long time. Like my friend Rian was just saying just now, he comes out the mine, and now I've got to talk about that in a moment. But I was sitting there, and I was very obvious. I was the Rice Krispie in the bowl of raisins, if you understand what I'm saying. And I'm sure my friends from Zimbabwe will know exactly what I mean when I say that. And Miles Monroe used to love using the opposite. He used to say to us whenever he came and spoke, he'd say, I feel like the raisin in the bowl of Rice Krispies. So there I was, and he looked straight at me. And he said, "Your future does not lie ahead of you. Your future lies within you." And that transformed the way I began to think. My future is actually within. And so if you want to discover your purpose, you've got to look within yourself, not outside there trying to find something or taking a gap year to travel the world, but to look within. Now, we can talk about that in a moment. I just wanted to get back to something interesting that I heard yesterday, which was the word apocalypse. I'm sure you may have heard this word before, and I've always associated the word apocalypse with complete and utter devastation. But the word revelation, what John wrote, was called in some translations the apocalypse of John, because apocalypse is actually to reveal. It's to uncover. So, Rian, when you talked about coming out, well, you didn't say this, but I imagine you crawling out the mine, and you came out from operating underground. Let's use all these exciting words. I can just imagine the CIA computers going crazy on the other side because there's this underground movement that has just begun. But there, of course, you're talking about the mine coming out, but that's. This word apocalypse is actually about revelation. It's about seeing something clearly for the first time. And maybe we're talking about new resolutions or New Year resolutions or having resolved, but maybe our desperate search is for revelation, where suddenly our eyes are open and we see the future, and then we begin to act on it. Paul, you've just been through a whole refurbishment program. You're like a new man sitting there, and I'm sure you've had some time to think about. And I love. And just by the way, I wanted to remind you that in Map for Life, the word retirement doesn't exist. So you were quite right to say that retirement is, because we only talk about refirement or reignition or revitalization. So in your case, it's refurbishment, and you're now ready for that new season. Tell us a bit about your vision. What is your vision that you see?
Yeah, I really see us as believers sharing fearlessly our unconditional love, or God's unconditional love for one another, so that the full potential of everybody that cross my road, or our people that's involved with our vision, can be developed. So it's part of kingdom building, but that's I've got a passion to help to develop whatever potential any individual may have, to optimize that potential and to help that person to achieve that potential, because that way we will create jobs, we will create income opportunities, and we will share it amongst all of us.
You know what, I was excited when you were talking there. I have to say something. But as you were talking, I remembered my grandfather. He had a trick. He had a trick. He used to do something. If the horse didn't want to go and drink water, he would give it salt. So he would put a block of salt, and the horse would lick the salt, and it would go and find the water. And I think, part of what we need to be doing in terms of Map for Life is to spread a bit of salt around, so that people get thirsty, that they want to find that living water that you were talking about. And I think one of the things that we do, and maybe even just this evening, when people listen and they see and they feel that enthusiasm, they're saying, hang on, these guys have got something. What is it? I want to find out more. So being the saltiness, I think for those people, if anybody's ever been to Rian, I know you may have had this experience. I think Paul may. In fact, anybody who's been through the military may have had this experience, and that is, if you go to a bar, a pub in London, they seem to generously share salty peanuts with everyone. or salty, or something salty, and everybody says, "Wow, you get free peanuts over here," but you don't realize I'm actually getting free salt that's making me more and more thirsty. So, and so, so there are people that use this approach, is to create that saltiness or that thirst. Rian, I could see you wanting to share your vision or share something enthusiastic while Paul was busy sharing his message there.
No, I just like what he said. You need to be unashamed. But I believe in 2023, what I really felt towards the end of 2022 is God speaks to me in different ways, and sometimes when He speaks to me, He will show me a picture, and what I saw was a 2. Or the 2023 is 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 3, and it equals 7. And so that's for me the figure of God. When I talk about God, it's 7. It's and I just feel that where there's a significant word or a purpose in your life, it's the year that things will happen. And what God started sharing with me, actually, I'm taking into 2023 is, Joseph was a man that was very purposed. God told him when he was a youngster, "You're going to reign one day." And he didn't reign at all, because he was sold as a slave. He was in the jail and dungeons everywhere. But everywhere you read that God was with him in Potiphar's house. And everything was blessed because of him. So what I like about Joseph is he believed in his purpose, although he might not have seen it at the time. And every time he went to even a worse place, to jail, he still believed in his purpose, and he still reigned in the jail. But then there was a moment, and I believe that's where we're standing today. You know what? After everything was done, 13 years down the line, this guy thinks one day he's going to reign. But then he walks in, and in one day, Potiphar, the Pharaoh gets this horrible dreams. Nobody can tell him what the dreams are. And this guy that was going dope the whole time, he was saying, "Hey, hang on. There's a guy."
For the Pharaoh, for those who don't understand.
I'm 100%, bro, you must understand. But so he remembered. And I think there was no time. Suddenly, when Joseph looked up, the guy said, "Come, the Pharaoh want to see you." And there was a moment. There was a moment that he was prepared for 30 years in his life. And he was ready. And the question I ask, I feel we're standing at a moment where our significant purpose, as Paul has said, to really make a difference in the world is in front of us. The question I have is, are you ready? Because if Joseph wasn't ready, he could have said, "Listen, I need a few days to think about this," and then he would have been sent back to the jail, or he would have his head would have been chopped off. But he was ready. He was ready at the moment. And each one of us, and each one listening tonight, it can be tomorrow, it can be in a week's time. But when that moment comes that you're standing in front of the Pharaoh, will you be ready to start reigning as you were called to reign? And if you walk into your purpose, then, I'm 30 years old. That's when Joseph started reigning. That's when he started reigning. For the next 7 years, he got everything together. Then 7 years, he distributed. And for the rest of his life, he was the second most powerful man in Egypt. All I'm saying is, are you ready? Interesting, it took Jesus 30 years as well. When he was 30 years old, he started ministering as well. But God has called you. Now, we don't know when that moment is, but be ready. And that's why you need your map. You need to say, what's the plan? Because when things fall in place, you need to start running. There's no time to think about it again. Then you need to start running. And I believe in 2023, we're going to see changes. If you are ready, I think God is going to take us to places where we have never imagined. He's going to create solutions for Eskom and for water and for whatever. God knows the economy. He knows business. He knows everything. We don't trust God in business. Why not? He has created business. He's been there forever. He's going to be there forever. Let's start trusting him, and we will be amazed at what he's going to show us. And I'm really excited then about what's going to happen. I just feel, go in your purpose. Get your purpose and be ready. The time is going to come.
You've started another hashtag. So now we've got a hashtag clear vision, and now we have a hashtag are you ready? So I think that this is so important. And this evening I had those two interesting military terms, missing in action, MIA. There's another one, KIA, killed in action. But then there's the AWOL, the absent without leave. And I just wonder, when I was involved in the process of military training, what I found what was very interesting was so many people were trying to hide behind someone else so that they wouldn't be seen, wouldn't be called to do something, that they would escape their responsibility. And I just have a sense tonight that when it comes to purpose, you can't hide. You're the only one that's been called to do that. And these things that we've talked about tonight just highlight that. And you can try and hide as long as you like, but the purpose is not going to leave you. It's not going to let you. It's going to tug at you constantly. If you're not in the right place right now, you will know you're not in the right place, because you're going to feel like you're in the wrong place, and it's going to trouble you, and it's going to trouble you your whole life. So why live a life where you're feeling troubled? Just start engaging. Just accept that there's something beyond your ability that you've been called to do, and all it requires is one small step of faith. Now, like Neil Armstrong, one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. I think it's like that. One small step of faith, and the world is radically changed. And maybe you are the person that needs to take that step of faith. We're waiting for you to show up and fulfill the purpose for which you were created. Our time is almost done. Wow, this has been an exciting evening. I've really appreciated your engagement this evening, Paul and Rian. And so I think it's important that each of you just kind of have your last word, something that just sums up maybe how you felt this evening, maybe something that was said. Those of you who are listening to this session this evening, maybe you've got something that you would like to share as well. Please do so. And if you're watching the recording, just post your comments. I think it's incredibly valuable when we hear and see other people's insights or perspectives. That's what Map for Life really wants to encourage, is because, we only look with one way. There's somebody that can see that I do have hair, but it's on the back of my head. But most people just look at the front and see no hair. So, Paul, what would be your closing remarks?
Join what Rian said about 7. Our vision is 777. And that I want to share with you the momentum that is part of this it's a simple, clear vision. 7 map cafes in Pretoria East, touching 10 small businesses each. So that's 70 businesses, touching 10 families each, 700 families. Simple as that. So for 2023, we're going to have momentum with 777.
I think, Paul, you've just hit the jackpot. Absolutely. Rian, what's your closing words this evening?
It's interesting. I was reading a book. It was actually a fiction book, and it was a fiction around the time that Jesus came, and there was a lady in the book. The book's name is AD 30, and at the stage she lost the sight. She could only see very dimly, and Jesus prayed for her, but he said, "I'm going to open the eyes of your heart." So when he finished praying for her, she still couldn't see, and as she went along, somewhere the truth dropped in her heart, and the moment the truth dropped into her heart, suddenly her eyesight was restored. What I did then is what we typically do. I said, "Oh God, I'm blind. Please restore my eyesight." And it was like God came to me and said, "I don't want to restore your eyesight. I don't want you to see the way you used to see. I want to remove your blindness." And that's what I want to say tonight. Don't ask God to restore what is bygones. Ask God to remove your blindness, that you can start seeing the way He's seeing. And I like what Paul said about 777. Start seeing new things. So for me this year, I'm saying to God, don't restore anything for me. remove my blindness because I can't see. And that's what I want to challenge you as well. Ask God to remove the blindness that you can really start seeing as he's seeing, because at this stage, what I'm seeing around me with my limited vision is that we are all blind. We're not seeing as God is starting to see. And I'm praying that people will start, their blindness must be removed in total.
Well, I think I'm going to now start seeing without my sight. How's that?
Yeah.
There was an interesting comment this morning. We for anybody who is Sammy from Zambia, lovely to have you on the board. You know, Sammy is going to be for the last 12 years. He's been engaging with young men in Zambia and mentoring them, and it was just such a privilege to see that one of his dreams he wrote down in his 2010 map for life just came true last week. And just an amazing story to see that happen, and to see him send me a photograph of the written goal in his map for life 2010, and a picture of him standing right there in that place. I mean, that was just so powerful. We know that Google is watching us. Artificial intelligence is tracking us, and every click, everything we do is being monitored, and we're being presented with the things that we like. This morning I learned that our brains work exactly the same way. Everything we look at, everything we listen to, everything we read is creating a library inside of us. And whenever we're faced with a situation, a circumstance, a problem, whatever it might be, we go to that library and we look for solutions. And so the question is, what books are you reading? What are you putting in your mind? Because that's going to be what's going to help you when you are stuck at some point. And so, I would suggest that you read something that's living, something that's going to revitalize your soul, something that's going to enable you to restore or to remove the blindness, as Rian was saying. Guys, thank you so much. It's been a privilege sharing this evening with you. The recording's available. Great to have everybody joining us on screen. And I will see you next week, same time, same place. Good night, guys. Have a wonderful evening further.